I recently came across a phenomenon that I've only actually seen 3 times in my career. It's where glass actually starts to decompose. It starts to just crumble. You can almost crumble it. In fact, you can crumble it in your fingers like sugar. Sometimes it's known as green glass disease, but it doesn't just affect greens, it affects other colours as well. It's a fascinating story. Let me tell you more. I recently had to carry out care and repair of some Victorian stained glass windows at a local church close to my studio. In one pair of windows, it's clear to see this interesting phenomenon of coloured glass literally decomposing and falling out. Here are some examples of the problem. In this instance, it's not green glass that's decomposing, but purple glass. You can see the characteristic spider's web of fractures and breaks running all the way through the glass, with the result that virtually all the glass transparency is lost and light can't pass through the glass surface. So we started the conservation of these windows by carefully removing them from the stonework and boarding up. Next, we brought them back to the studio for closer inspection. Looking more closely at the surface of the glass in reflected light, we can see a remarkable pitted and decayed surface with holes. This process of decay and deterioration of the glass structure comes under the general term of de-vitrification, with this particular version called Crizzling. In order to better understand what Crizzling is, we need to turn to an article in the online magazine Vidimus, written in April 2016, and I'll leave a link to this in the show notes below. Here, author Merlin Griffiths of the York Glaziers Trust writes, historically, it was thought that in windows the problem only occurred with green glass, leading to the name green glass disease. But we now know that it also occurs in other forms of glass, notably purple glass. The problem is caused by a chemical imbalance, with the glass composition having too much alkali and not enough calcium oxide. Calcium oxide, also known as quicklime, is a crucial ingredient in glassmaking because it acts as a stabilizer and modifier, improving the glass's chemical resistance, durability, and overall quality. This crizzling effect is sometimes called sugaring or glass disease. This degradation falls under the general term of glass devitrification. So in order to understand devitrification, we've got to understand what glass is. Surprisingly, glass is neither a liquid or a solid. It sits somewhere between the two. It's what's called an amorphous solid. Amorphous solids are very interesting. To be amorphous is to be ill-defined, to lack structure. Most solids form crystalline structures at their atomic level, but amorphous solids don't form this rigid crystalline latticework. It's much more random in their formation, and there are some surprising amorphous solids around. Things like rubber, gels, toothpaste, and crucially, glass. Glass is an amorphous solid. One of the most incredible things I witnessed in recent times is watching highly skilled glassblowers making beautiful new glass sheets at Lamberts factory in Waldsassen, Germany. I made a video all about that trip and I'll leave links below in the show notes. It's well worth watching. It's amazing to think that glass is principally made of only 3 ingredients: silica sand, which is silicon dioxide, soda ash, which is sodium carbonate, and calcium in the form of limestone. When heated together at high temperatures, these 3 simple ingredients magically vitrify into glass. Colours can be added to this base clear glass in the form of various heavy metals, such as iron or copper or gold. This is done with great skill and it's incredible to watch. At this early stage, the glass can easily be seen as a liquid, with all the molecules within that glass structure randomly attached to one another in a loose arrangement. The glass is then very carefully allowed to cool below its melting point, just enough to begin shaping and forming it into firstly a bubble and then a long cylinder. Eventually, the glass is allowed to cool into its final sheet form, and we can think of the glass as a supercooled liquid or amorphous solid. So glass has all the structural makeup of a liquid, but with a really high viscosity, so it no longer moves like a liquid. If that delicate balance of combining raw materials during the making process is not done exactly right, the structure of this amazing half-liquid, half-solid material can begin to break down. This is when we can see devitrification happening, showing itself as this really strange crizzling effect we looked at earlier. Unfortunately, not a lot can be done when the glass has reached this stage, and the most cost-effective thing to do is to remove the degraded glass and replace it with new. So, let's return to our panels and complete our conservation work. We've carefully removed all the degraded crizzled glass. There were a couple of breaks to the window as well, and we're now cutting new glass to match the damaged glass, so the same color and the same texture as the original glass. This section here was damaged by a stone, so we're repainting a new piece, and I'm applying a little bit of yellow silver stain here. This is silver nitrate or a silver chloride, which stains the glass yellow. And we paint it on, and then we pop it into the kiln and fire it at about 650 degrees centigrade, and that makes the paints and the stains permanently adhere to the glass surface. Once the firing is complete, we can then remove the top layer of carrying agent, which you can see here is a brown paint on top. That's simply removed with a little bit of water to reveal our yellow silver stain underneath. Now that we've repainted our pieces, we begin to insert them back into the panel by carefully bending the lead back and popping the new pieces of glass into position. Here's a handy little tip for you. If you're doing repairs on stained glass windows and you just want to put a little bit of weatherproofing putty around it, normally you buy linseed oil putty, which is like a flesh colored putty, this kind of pale tone here. But it's much better if you're doing repairs to blacken it down, to darken it down so it's much more like a leaded window cement color. So generally what I use is this, which is a grate polish. It's for stoves and fireplaces. This is used a lot. It's like a little toothpaste tube of black grate polish. And if you add a little bit to your putty like this, wearing gloves because it's a really messy old job, you can actually change the colouring of your putty to a much darker tone, and it works really, really well when you're doing repairs. So you might be on site in a church and you're taking a damaged piece of glass out and you're replacing it with a new piece of glass. Always try to darken down your putty so that it doesn't stand out. If you don't darken it down, you end up with a very bright sort of white putty ring around the repair, and it's very visible and it's very kind of jarring visually. You want it to blend in as much as possible with the existing cement color of stained glass windows. So using a grate polish is a really nice solution. So here we now have a lovely grey tone putty that is ideal for doing the repairs. I'm just very carefully cleaning out the heart of the lead with any more bits of putty or hardened cement that may remain there. Now we're just checking to see how much of the new painted piece needs to be trimmed down, very carefully grinding it down. We have a little bit of light bleed around some of the edges here, so this is now where our black putty goes into place. So the putty that we made earlier here, as you can see here, is now filled in around the outside edge, in order to weatherproof the window again. So we take a small section off here. It's nice and malleable. We very carefully press the putty in all the way around the edges. Weatherproof this repair so that it doesn't allow any water to come back through the window into the interior of the building. So if you've enjoyed today's video, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. You could also consider becoming a channel member. That really does help us get this information out to as many people as possible. If you've got any suggestions for future videos and topics that you want covering, do leave them in the comments below this video. And if you want to continue your stained glass journey, check out this video next. Thanks again for watching. Bye for now.